Namaskar. As I said that I'm building up this whole theory why for any feminist talking about genocide is very important, and I haven't defined genocide yet. And for me, the Hindu genocide is important because it happened to my family as a Hindu, and how I identify as a Hindu, I'll talk about all of that. But first we have to define genocide and so forth. That will come later. Let's first try to understand feminism. We talked about liberal feminism, which came from the liberalism of the 19th century. And what did it want for women? It wanted the right to vote. It wanted the right to employment, which means wage labor. Women were doing labor without wages, middle-class women mostly, at home. And it also wanted to incorporate women into not only the labor force, but give women educational opportunities for self-empowerment. And Mary Wollstonecraft is a very important theorist of this time. Let us try to think what she's saying. Remember, even at her time, there were women who were working, but that doesn't mean that they were liberated. There were maids who were serving at home. They were not part of the market, but they were serving inside the home, or the oikos, if you want to use Aristotle's terminology. And there were also sex workers who were working, selling their sex, etc., which is the oldest profession. Now, employment, political representation. Does political representation only empower a class of people? There have been women head of the states in India and Pakistan, Bangladesh. Did it empower all classes of women? No. So this liberal framework itself is problematic, apart from its public-private dichotomy, which I'll talk about later, some of the problems of secularism that Marx talked about. He called secularism a liberal bourgeois ideology. But that's later. Now I'm going to bring in another feminism, which is a critique of liberal feminism, which is called Marxist feminism. But in order to do that, I have to first go over a little bit of Marxist theory. What is Marxist theory? I'll go over two things in Marx which are relevant for us. One is his interpretation of history, and the second is some terminology like use value, exchange value, surplus value, and so forth. So let's see what Marx says about the movement of history. Let us remember that Marx was born under the Enlightenment, so he was very much influenced by the stalwarts of his time like Newton and Galileo and so forth. Now, according to Marx, if these people can find energy, moving motion, they can explain natural laws, why can't we explain the movement of society? And he tried to. And this is his view of society. I'll explain all of this. He says society is a two-tiered model, a base and a superstructure, a first floor and a second floor. The first floor is the cause, the second floor is the effect. It's almost like physics, because he was a product of enlightenment. So what is in the base? He says MP and RP. What are MP and RP? Modes of production and relations of production. What are modes of production? They can be tribal. People hunt and gather. They produce their daily lives in a tribal way. They can be agricultural. They have discovered irrigation and they can grow things. It can be feudal. They have serfs who will work and grow the things, cattle rearing, etc. And of course capitalist, which is the modern industrial society, but socialism is also industrial society, but he was more interested in capitalism. This is the base. What is in the superstructure, or the second floor of society? Remember, all these are metaphors. Marx will tell you everything else is in the superstructure. What are those? Those are state, religious institution, family. Everything is a reflection of the fundamental modes of production. So what are the fundamental modes of production? The tribal mode of production, agricultural mode of production, feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production. But I've also given another aspect, RP. What is RP? Relations of production. According to Marx, our relationship to each other is determined by the fundamental mode of production. In a tribal society, I'm a hunter, you're a gatherer, because we both can't do the same thing. We need each other. That's our relationship. It's outside of our control. In agricultural society, the modes of production is agriculture, so you are the landlord, I'm the peasant. In feudal society, you are the holder of the serf, I'm the serf. You control my labor. And in capitalist society, you are the capitalist employer, I'm a free laborer, you pay me wages. So And remember, in the superstructural level, everything else is there. The tribal state is a reflection of the fundamental tribal mode of production. The capitalist state is a reflection of the fundamental capitalist mode of production, which is why he didn't believe in the liberal bourgeois democracy that we talked about. But there are certain other things that we need to talk about. Use and exchange value. What is use value? That which we produce to consume, but we don't sell it. I cook for myself and I consume it, but I don't sell it to make profit. Exchange value is where I produce to sell and to make profit. I cook so that I can sell it, and that's my business. So what happened as history progressed, according to Marx, use value gave rise to larger market, larger population, and exchange value. Of course, in capitalist system, everything is almost exchange value. We don't make our own clothes, we eat outside, we don't grow our own food except in some small communities, etc. And what is surplus value? So use value and exchange value, you understand. What is surplus value? Surplus value for Marx is very interesting. He will tell you that surplus value is the extra amount of labor that is squeezed out of the worker, especially in a factory. A labor produces this much labor time. Why? Because he has to eat, drink, and sleep to go back to factory the next day so that he can replenish his power and go back and work. And he's working for subsistence, and he's coming back and going back and coming back, replenishing his labor power. He's going back and he's doing the work. There is always more labor given than what he's getting in exchange in terms of wages. Why? Because according to Marx, wages cannot determine human labor. Human labor is a very intimate human thing. It cannot determine, wages are material things. It cannot give real proper value to human labor. So that's why he says there is always more. Why is more? Say X, he's going to the factory, he's making shoes. Then he's coming back home, he's in subsistence, he's getting paid very little. Now, of course, with mechanization, it's different from when he was writing. It's a lot less labor. So he's coming back home, he's replenishing his labor power by eating, drinking, and sleeping. But that's not free labor for Marx. It's also tied to his going back to work the next day so that he can go on producing the shoes and earn some money for his subsistence. So he has no free time. So when we say that capitalism is free labor and serfdom is bonded labor, Marx will say that's not true. Because even when he is home, his whole replenishing of labor power is tied to the producing of those shoes in the factory. And there is always a surplus value, meaning I always produce more and get back less. It is on this that Marxist feminism critique Marx and also they build up their theory, which is my next lecture.